Once again, I welcome you all to my lecture series on the chemistry of main group elements. So far, I was discussing about the classification of elements and periodic properties, and also I gave introduction to the type of compounds we come across among main group elements. Before I proceed to elaborate the chemistry of main group elements group wise, let me bring another important concept that is very important to understand the physical and chemical properties and also the reactivity of main group compounds, that is structure and bonding aspects. Let me begin with Lewis structures. We are all familiar with the Lewis structures. In fact, Lewis structure was proposed by Gilbert Newton Lewis in 1916 from University of California at Berkeley, and besides working on structural aspects related to main group elements, he also added a lot of information about electrons in the periodic table, and also he worked on the purification of heavy water, and he proposed acid base theory, and it is popularly known as Lewis acid base concept, and also he worked in the field of photochemistry. In fact, he was nominated 41 times for Nobel Prize, and unfortunately he was not given Nobel Prize, and he found dead on March 23rd, 1946 in his laboratory. At that time he was working with hydrogen cyanide, a deadly poisonous gas. So, what are the postulates one has to follow before writing Lewis structure? So, one has to determine how the atoms are bonded in a molecule. So, generally if there are only one of one element and multiple copies of another element, the unique element is central. Commonly hydrogen is always peripheral, bonded to elements such as nitrogen, oxygen or sulfur, and then we have to do the counting of electrons, essentially counting the valence electrons of all atoms present in the molecule or ion. After knowing the basic structure of the molecule, we have to start placing the electrons around atoms. The first step is to determine the total number of electrons that are available for making bonding in Lewis dot structure. Here we can use the help of group number of an element to indicate the number of valence electrons that it contributes to the molecule. For example, oxygen is in group 16. It gives 6 electrons. Okay. So, what are the postulates one should remember? I will repeat again. First, determine how the atoms are bonded in a molecule, and then identify the central atom based on what I had said so far. And again I am telling you, hydrogen is always peripheral. Count the valence electrons of all atoms in the molecule. First, establish the bond between the central atom and peripheral atom with a pair of electrons each, and place the remaining electrons around the atoms to complete their octet. Begin with the most electronegative atom. If needed, use double bonds to satisfy the octet. So, these are the few points one should remember before initiating the process of writing Lewis structure. Okay, let us consider an example. I will consider a simple example such as CO. In CO, we have carbon and oxygen, and we know the electronic configuration of carbon, that is 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2, and we also know the electronic configuration of oxygen 1s2, 2s2 and 2p4. So, while writing the Lewis structure, we should consider only the valence electrons. So, we have here 4 and here 6. So, total we have for CO 10 electrons are there. So, here first write a bond here using 2 electrons, and now we are left with 8 electrons, and using these 8 electrons, let us first try to satisfy the octet of oxygen. Now, oxygen has 2 electrons, it requires 6 more electrons. Let us place in this fashion. So, 6 electrons are placed here. We are left with 2 electrons. These 2 electrons can come here. Now, if you look into carbon monoxide, oxygen has satisfied its octet, has plus 2 8 electrons, whereas carbon has only 4 electrons. So, Lewis structure gives a satisfactory octet for carbon and oxygen. So, in that case what one should do is we can consider transferring these electrons between oxygen and carbon in this fashion. So, now if I start counting these electrons along with these two, oxygen has 8 electrons. In a same way we can also consider carbon is satisfied having 8 electrons. So, thus Lewis structure gives a satisfactory bonding model for carbon monoxide. So, while writing carbon monoxide one can write like this, or one can put a triple bond between C and O and complete it. So, this is how carbon monoxide has 3 bonds between carbon and oxygen. So, here the octet is satisfied. Let us look into another example such as ClO2 minus. So, later I will tell you, when we look into a species, by simply looking to the Lewis dot structure we should be able to tell whether it exists in the cationic form, anionic form or neutral form. So, here it is say anionic form, it is in anionic form. So, ClO2, let us write in the same fashion the total number of valence electrons that are available for making the bonds here. So, Cl has 7 electrons and oxygen totally we have 12 electrons, 6 plus 6, and one charge is there. So, we have a total of 20 electrons now. Here chlorine is the central atom, it should be written like this, and 2 are peripheral atoms. First we should make a covalent bond by utilizing 2 electrons here, another 2 electrons here. So, we are left with now 16 electrons, and oxygen being the most electronegative, we should satisfy the octet of this one by adding 6 electrons for both oxygen atoms. So, now we have totally used 16 electrons and 4 electrons are left. These 4 electrons I place on chlorine. So, now if I start counting, all the 3 atoms have octet, that is 4 pair of electrons. So, here there is no need to have any double bond. So, this is how the structure of ClO2 minus can be explained using Lewis structure. So, this can also be written in another format. Or it can be so, one can write either with solid line like this representing 2 electrons, or one can simply write using the dot structure to complete the structure. So, this is how the Lewis dot structure successfully explains bonding in carbon monoxide and also ClO2 minus anion. Let us look into some structures. In case of some structures, Lewis structure cannot match the experimental observations. For certain atoms do not match the experimental observations. Let us look into the simple example such as formate ion. So, in case of formate ion, the bond lengths predicted by Lewis structure are incorrect. So, according to Lewis structure, so if we look, this is how one can write the structure using Lewis method for format. So, here Lewis structure predicts two types of bonding for CO. One is CO double bond, that is shorter, and one CO single bond, that is longer, but the X-ray structural determination has proved that both the bond distances are equivalent. That means the molecule shows resonance, and this resonance structure can be written in this fashion. So, the combined structure can be written in this form. So, that means if there are two or more identical options for a molecule to have double bonds, the molecule will show resonance structures, and these two resonance structures are shown here. And because of this kind of resonance structure, what happens, both the CO bond distances are essentially equal, whereas Lewis dot structure identifies them as two separate entities, and one is longer, one is shorter. That means there are some limitations as far as Lewis model is concerned. What are the failures or limitations of Lewis model? We shall see now. A number of molecules with odd number of electrons exist, and in case of Lewis structure we always count in pairs. So, when odd electron comes, Lewis method fails to give a satisfactory structure. For example, if you take NO, in this case we have 5 plus 6, 11 electrons are there. As a result, a satisfactory Lewis structure cannot be written for NO. An atom may not have enough electrons to complete its octet without having formal charges. This problem arises when we look into the compounds of group 13 elements. We have S2P1 electronic configuration. As a result, what happens, we will end up with only 3 bonds and 6 electrons, example BF3. And another problem or limitation is when we look into molecules having more than 8 electrons. For example, sulfur hexafluoride, we have 12 electrons are there, and it does not say how to put the remaining 4 electrons. And another important limitation is predicting the right structure of oxygen molecule. Oxygen molecule is paramagnetic, but Lewis structure does not depict this paramagnetic property. More than all these things, the major drawback of Lewis model is it does not give any information about geometry and shapes of the molecules. So, in order to determine the molecular shapes and the geometries of main group compounds, VSEPR theory was postulated. VSEPR is nothing but the valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. The expansion of abbreviation is self-explanatory. Valence shell, that means we have to deal with valence shell, and electrons means we are dealing with the electrons present in valence shell, and then the term repulsion comes. That means when we are putting electrons into the valence shell, there is some interelectronic repulsion, and that means how to minimize that one. Valence electron pair repulsion theory essentially gives an idea of how to minimize the repulsion between the bonded pair as well as lobed pair. That means So, valence shell electron pair repulsion theory is based on the fact that electrostatic repulsion of the electrons is reduced to a minimum when the various regions of high electron density assumes positions as apart as possible. So, let us look into the concepts that are used in Weiss CAPR theory, and that means essentially it is based on the electrostatic repulsion between the paired electrons, bonded electrons and unpaired electrons, and how to place them surrounding the central atom to minimize these interaction between the lone pairs and bond pairs and lone pairs and lone pairs and bond pairs and bond pairs. First, this concept was proposed by Sidgwick and Powell in 1940, and then in 1957 two more scientists, Gillespie and Nyholm, refined it and introduced a term called steric number. I would define what is steric number. First, we have to determine the steric contribution around the central atom by counting all the electrons very similar to Lewis structure, and then we should arrive at a term called steric number, and steric number is nothing but the number of attached atoms plus number of lone pairs, and number of attached atoms are essentially consuming 2 electrons to make a covalent bond, and then number of lone pairs. Once after determining the steric number, the most stable geometry corresponding to that can be obtained by maximizing the distance between the steric points on the surface of a sphere by keeping them as far away from each other as possible. So, these are the basic concepts used in valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. So, let us look into few points again. Lone pairs of electrons, lone pair electrons are held closer to the nucleus. So, most prohibitive repulsion is lone pair followed by lone pair and then bond pair. So, lone pairs will spread out as much as possible. That means essentially lone pairs will occupy more space compared to bonded pairs, and hence the angle between the lone pairs will be always larger. So, for predicting the molecular geometries, we need two important terms. First, we have to write a Lewis structure for a given molecule, and then we have to count the total number of bonding regions and lone pairs around the central atom and determine the steric number. Again, steric number is nothing but the number of attached atom plus number of lone pairs. So, arrange the bonding regions and lone pairs in one of the standard geometries to minimize electron-electron repulsion. Multiple bonds count as a single bonding region. So, let us consider the geometries with the different steric numbers. Steric numbers can be anywhere between 2 to 6. Of course, more will also come. Let us first look into the steric numbers up to 6. When the steric number is 2, the molecule will be linear, and when the steric number is 3, molecule will be trigonal planar, so something like this. So, when the molecule is linear with steric number 2, and when the steric number is 3, so trigonal planar, the angles will be 120 degree, and when the steric number is 4, they are tetrahedrally disposed. Something like this. This is a symmetric tetrahedral with angles of 109.5 degree, something like this. When the steric number is 5, the geometry that should be used is trigonal bipyramidal. This is something like this. Here we have two types of bonds, one is this one 90 degrees and another one is 120 degrees. So, this is trigonal bipyramidal geometry, and with steric number 6, octahedral geometry. So, this is how up to steric number one can assume the geometry is like this. So, molecular shapes, while determining molecular shapes, we need two important terms, that is bond distance and bond angle. The distance between the nuclei of two bonded atoms along a straight line is nothing but the bond distance. The angle between any two bonds containing a common atom is essentially bond angle. So, in this, consider this molecule, octahedral molecule. So, the distance from central atom to the peripheral atom is called bond distance, and the angle between these two atoms at the central atom is called the bond angle. This is the bond angle and this is the bond distance. So, this is trigonal planar molecule with coordination number with this is the trigonal planar molecule with steric number 3, bond angle is 120, and here it is a tetrahedral, bond angle is 109.5 degree, and here we have bond angles of 90 and 120. This is trigonal planar, and here bond angle is 90. Of course, with steric number 5 we can have trigonal planar as well as square pyramidal geometry. So, one should remember main group compounds do not prefer to have square pyramidal geometry until and unless the sixth coordination is a lone pair. Otherwise, preferred geometry for steric number 5 is trigonal bipyramidal. With coordination number 6 is octahedral geometry with bond angle 90 degree, and with coordination number 7 one can have pentagonal bipyramidal geometry with bond angles 90 and 72. 72 will be between the equatorial ones, and the axial one will make 90 degree with the equatorial atoms. So, this is the pentagonal bipyramidal geometry. So, here I have listed different kind of molecules we come across and the corresponding geometry and the angle with an example in each case. AX2 steric number 2, and the predicted geometry according to VSEPR theory is linear, and of course, it is linear here. Example BeCl2 beryllium dichloride, angle is 180, and when the molecule is AX3 type, okay, where A is the central atom and X are the peripheral atoms, steric number 3. So, all are bonded pairs, trigonal planar, and example is BF3. When we have steric number 4, example is AX4, tetrahedral geometry, example is SiF4, methane, and other tetrahedral compounds having 4 bonded pairs. Here the angle is 109.5, and AX5 trigonal bipyramidal, angles are 90 and 120, example PF5 phosphorus pentafluoride, and with AX6 steric number 6 octahedral, and here example is sulfur hexafluoride. So, these are about the steric number that accounts for only bonded pair. Let us look into the combination of both bonded pair and lone pairs. We have numerous examples of having both bonded pair and lone pair. So, in that case geometry and shapes will be different, whereas in these cases what I have shown here, the geometry and the shape are essentially same. So far we discussed about the molecules having only bonded pairs, starting from steric number 2 to steric number 6 and also 7. In my next lecture I will be discussing about the molecules having both bonded pairs as well as lone pairs. So, let me conclude today's talk and have a pleasant chemistry learning, and see you in my next lecture to learn more about the VSEPR theory. Thank you very much.